Police officers stand accused of killing an unarmed West African immigrant. How is Amadou Diallo's father coping with his loss? I'll talk to his attorney. Today I'm joined by an attorney representing Amadou Diallo's father, Omar Mohammedi. Also here in studio, criminal defense attorney Gerald Lefcourt, and in Albany, Dan Lynch, a columnist for the Albany Times-Union. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Omar, let me start with you. I have been reading information about Amadou Diallo that I didn't see early in the reports about his family background. Sounded very middle class to upper middle class, right. Coming over here as a student and simply working as this street vendor to make his way through school. Has he been portrayed appropriately in the press?
I think he hasn't been portrayed properly in the press because they mentioned, I think sometimes they said peddler. He's well educated, and he was very educated, and he was very smart guy, and he wanted to go and experience his life in America, where everyone wants to come here and make a living and make sure that their dream is achieved, and they want to achieve a dream. Unfortunately, what's happened to him, he just shattered that dream, and he's not here anymore. He's not in this world anymore. He's not in the United States. He's in nowhere. And I think he was a very smart guy. He went to school. His father mentioned the fact that he knows computer science, and this is what he wants to do. He wanted to go back to school and go to computer science and make sure that he will achieve his dream. And that's
what about the concerns that, and it doesn't seem the defense is sure whether or not to approach this, that he might have acted furtively around the cops because he had lied on some immigration papers. He was peddling bootleg tapes and might have been afraid of getting in trouble.
I don't think I'm going to comment on that, because this is people are trying to betray him this way, and I don't think it's fair that they will betray him this way. He doesn't deserve to be shot 41 times because he was a peddler, or the way they say that he had lied to immigration. This is not relevant to his shooting and to his death, and I don't think it's appropriate to betray him this way.
But Gerald, this problem works for both sides. These 4 police officers, before the trial gets underway, are part of the street crimes unit. They're portrayed as cowboys, shooting from the hip. They're out to clean the streets no matter what it takes, and even all sorts of racist implications surrounding them before we hear a word from them.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that we have 4 white cops traveling through a neighborhood such as that alone, obviously poorly trained. It's unfortunate that we have a mayor that defends that kind of activity. But the truth of the matter is, the question really that hasn't really been proved yet, is this an intentional murder? Intentional murder carries a life sentence, and so does depraved murder. And, there are 2 theories under which these police officers who thought that they were doing what they're supposed to do, even if improperly trained, are facing life in jail because of their work. This is what troubles me a little bit. I haven't seen the evidence yet of what we all learn in law school. You have to prove before you take somebody's life that they acted with an evil intent to kill. Maybe they were frightened, maybe they thought they saw something they didn't see, and maybe they continued shooting when they should have stopped. But this is really far short than an intentional murder, if that's what is proven.
Okay, let me jump in and go to Albany, because Beth Karras has gotten out of the courtroom and can join us now. Beth, we've been hearing, can you hear me all right?
Yes,
there you are. There you are. We've been hearing a lot of the sort of foundation testimony through the ballistics expert. Can you kind of summarize what came in this morning?
Well, it was a dramatic morning. First, there was a civilian witness, Ida Vincent, who's a neighbor of Amadou Diallo, and she heard the shots, as did a witness who testified last week. And she describes 2 volleys with a very, very brief pause in between. Again, this is something that the prosecution is going to use to argue that because there was even an ever so brief pause in the shooting, the officers should have been able to size up the situation and not continue firing. She also says that she hears voices, and she's part of not only affirmative evidence but negative evidence. She didn't hear any commands made by police officers, as they are going to say they made to Amadou Diallo to show us your hands, stop police, something to that effect. She hears nothing like that, but she does hear voices, and she did hear, she says, she couldn't say who it was, but after the shooting, near her window, she hears someone say, okay, we're just going to say this, as if to suggest that the officers were getting together to concoct their story right after the shooting. So that was pretty damaging to the defense, her testimony. And then the ballistics expert, who's still on the stand, has been been educating the jury about ballistics evidence and the various 9mm used in this case, but it was very dramatic also in the courtroom when the 4 guns used to kill Amadou Diallo were introduced into evidence and presented to the jury.
And they're expected to be back at 1:30. Of course, Court TV will be there as soon as the judge gets back in the courtroom. And with me, Omar Mohammedi, the attorney for Amadou Diallo's father, Gerald Lefcourt, criminal defense attorney, and Dan Lynch with the Albany Times Union. We were talking, Omar, about police tendencies, and certainly the notion that the police were afraid for their lives. You mentioned, well, what about Amadou if these men were coming after him? Even if there's an excuse, which everyone would agree that a law-abiding citizen can behave in a frightened fashion and not necessarily respond as the perfect citizen might, the officer still might misinterpret that conduct.
I think that I'm not going to go in details regarding what's happened there because no one knows what's happened then. But I just want to mention the fact that everyone is saying that police officers, they were threatened for their lives. Those police officers are trained for the situations. Now, let's put this situation where Amadou Diallo is threatened for his life and 4 people come to him and say, stop with guns. What do you think Amadou Diallo, how he would react? And we had the witness Rivera, just when she mentioned the fact that they were coming to her, she was so scared. And this is the perception. I think the Bronx, it seems like a place where people are frightened by the police because of what is happening for police brutality. It seems like it's a difficult situation for people who walk and then they have other people coming with guns and stop because of the situation in Bronx. And let's not forget that the police officer, they try, the defense, they try to make Bronx as a war zone. And even in a war zone, innocent people shouldn't die. And we have to make sure that we protect the innocent people, and that's what police officers are there for, to protect the innocent.
It sounds like a real vicious cycle, Gerald.
It sure does.
You've got cops afraid everyone's got a gun, and you've got everyone in the neighborhood afraid the cops might shoot them.
I think that these police officers, as young white officers, have received much training about how frightening the Bronx is to them and how careful they ought to be in the Bronx as to how to deal with a situation such as this. And this is one of those tragic reasons why we shouldn't have 4 white cops traveling alone, that we should have racially mixed patrols, that they ought to be well trained, that they ought to instinctively take cover before they start shooting. And, you know, I hope the family gets millions here. The thing that concerns me is that the prosecutor's knee-jerk reaction to make everything an intentional murder, where it doesn't seem to be that we have any evidence yet of what they were really intending to do.
So you're saying go for the money. This is not a criminal prosecution, it's a civil action against the police department, and that's the way you say it ought to be handled.
If there was a crime committed here, it seems like it's a lesser crime than intentional. There's manslaughter, there's reckless homicide, there are degrees of these things. But intentional murder, it sort of reminds me of the nanny case, where the prosecutors, you know, if it's a shaking case, it's somebody who lost it, not somebody who intended to kill. And, you know, the prosecutors always go for the wildest, far-out, most serious charge. And I think that's what's happened here.
Omar, would the Diallo family be, well, I mean, obviously upset, resentful if less than second-degree murder was returned?
I think there would be, and I think Saikou Diallo, last Friday interview, he mentioned that he wouldn't be happy with less than that.
Oh, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.